On Sunday afternoon, my ex-husband ordered me out of our shared office by Monday. He did it while I was holding a chipped blue glass paperweight above a stack of invoices, trying to decide whether the wobble came from the paper or the desk. "We need this cleared tonight," Evan said. "The hotel people are coming at 9. "Cleared how?" He looked at my desk. "Claire, come on, it's clutter." Behind him, 3 entire shelves had been cleared to bare gray metal. His mother stood in the doorway with a ring of keys looped around one finger. I set the paperweight down. "Where are the candlesticks?" Evan's jaw shifted. Diane answered for him. "Somewhere they won't distract from the possibilities of the space." The brass candlesticks were company inventory. So were the label printers missing from the next shelf, the sample books that weighed 14 pounds apiece, and the blue binders where we kept signed transfer sheets. I looked at Evan. "You gave her keys?" He glanced back at his mother, then at me. That was when I understood the question wasn't whether he had given them to her. It was how long ago. Bennett House Events occupied a converted appliance warehouse in a commercial strip outside Richmond, Virginia, between a countertop fabricator and a wholesale bakery that made the whole parking lot smell like butter at 5 in the morning. From the street, our building looked like a place where forklifts went to die. Inside, we rented the things people used to convince themselves an evening would last forever. Linen, glassware, velvet chairs, portable bars, chandeliers, brass candlesticks, arches, upholstered benches, fake olive trees, and enough tiny votive holders to illuminate a small republic. The office sat above the loading bay behind a wall of wired glass. Evan and I had shared it for 12 years, including the 11 months since our divorce. We had rules now, written ones. Neither partner could remove inventory without a transfer sheet. Purchases over $2,000 required both signatures. Family members did not receive keys, payroll positions, or informal authority. That last rule had required 3 rounds of edits because Evan kept trying to replace family members with non-employees, as though his mother might become an employee through persistence. Diane lifted the key ring and let it chime softly. "I'm helping," she said. "You're not on staff. I don't need a W-2 to fluff a pillow. We don't rent pillows." That attitude is why the showroom looks cold. It's a warehouse. Evan pinched the bridge of his nose. He did that whenever he wanted credit for suffering through a conflict he had created. "Can we get through one conversation without turning it into a Supreme Court argument?" he asked. I asked where the inventory went. And I'm telling you, I moved some things so the office would be presentable. The office isn't a showroom. Tomorrow it is. I put both hands flat on my desk. There was an odd rectangle of clean wood beneath the paperweight, the color the whole surface had been before years of coffee, sunlight, and my wrists. Evan and I had bought that desk at an estate sale in Mechanicsville. It had taken us 40 minutes to wedge it into a borrowed van, while an elderly man in plaid pants offered increasingly useless advice. On the drive home, Evan had kept one hand on the desk because the back doors wouldn't latch. At every stoplight, he shouted, "Still married?" And I shouted back, "For now." We had thought we were hilarious. "Monday morning," Evan said. "Please have your personal things out. You can work downstairs temporarily." "From where?" "The receiving table. The receiving table has a dent the size of a soup bowl. Then don't put your coffee in the dent." Diane smiled before she could stop herself. I looked past Evan at the missing sample books. "Did you move the blue inventory binders?" I consolidated them. "Where?" "I don't know off the top of my head. You moved them, but you don't know where. Do you know where every single thing in this building is?" "Usually, yes. That isn't the flex you think it is." There were a dozen answers available to me. I could have asked why his mother had keys when our operating agreement specifically prohibited it. I could have reminded him that I owned half the company, half the desks, half the shelves, and in the least romantic arithmetic imaginable, half the door he was ordering me through. Instead, I picked up my blue coffee mug. "Okay," I said. Evan blinked. Diane's keys went still. "Okay," he repeated. "I'll be out by Monday." He watched me as though I had set something down that he expected me to throw. I slipped my laptop into its bag, then gathered the vendor invoices, my notebooks, 2 pens, a box of tea, and the paperweight. The blue glass was oval, flattened on the bottom, with a pale spiral trapped in the center. Evan had brought it home from a coastal hotel installation, our 3rd year in business. He had found it in a gift shop while buying me aspirin. At the time, we'd been sleeping 4 hours a night and eating most meals over packing lists. He'd set it on my desk and said, "For all the important paper we definitely have under control." Now its chipped edge caught against my palm. I carried everything downstairs in one trip. Evan followed me halfway. "You don't have to make this dramatic," he said. I shifted the box against my hip. "I'm carrying office supplies." "You know what I mean?" I did. To Evan, drama was any visible consequence that arrived before he had prepared his explanation. The receiving area was empty except for the long metal table, a hand truck, and a pallet of freshly washed wine glasses wrapped in cloudy plastic. I set my things on the table. The dent tilted my mug toward me. Upstairs, Diane's shoes crossed the office floor. A drawer opened. I took out my laptop and emailed Luis Ortega, our warehouse supervisor. Luis had joined us 7 years earlier as a delivery driver and had become the person who could look at a truck, a doorway, and a stack of chairs and know exactly which one was about to betray him. He was off on Sundays unless a weekend return went wrong, so I kept the message short. "Luis, please schedule a complete physical inventory beginning Friday at 7 a.m. Freeze non-contracted transfers after Thursday's final dispatch. I'll scan Zone A with you. Please confirm staffing." I copied Evan and Naomi Price, our outside bookkeeper. Then I sent it. Evan came down the metal stairs so quickly the steps rang under him. "A full inventory?" "Yes." "This Friday?" That's generally what beginning Friday means. We're in the middle of the Halcyon proposal. The proposal meeting is tomorrow. And if they sign, we'll need to turn around preliminary availability immediately. Then it'll be useful to know what we have. He lowered his voice. "You're doing this because I asked you to clean your desk." "I'm doing it because I asked where company inventory went, and neither owner could tell me." "I'm an owner." I said neither. He stared at me. He'd always been handsome when he was annoyed, which felt like one of marriage's cheaper tricks. His hair went silver early at the temples, giving authority to expressions that had not earned it. Clients read his impatience as focus. I had once read it as ambition. Behind him, Diane descended the stairs carrying one of our black presentation folders. "Is this about the candlesticks?" she asked. "Because I can assure you, they're safe." "Where?" I don't respond well to interrogation. It was 4 letters and a question mark. "Claire," Evan warned. That single word did more than Diane's smile or her keys. It put me back at our old dining table during Christmas dinner when she had announced she was reorganizing our kitchen because 2 working people need a system. I had looked at Evan, expecting him to tell her no. He had asked whether she wanted more potatoes. Later, after I found my grandmother's roasting pan in a donation box, he said Diane got anxious when she didn't feel useful. I said I got anxious when people removed things from my house. He told me I was treating his mother like a burglar. The pan came back. The argument never ended. "I'll be here at 7 Friday," I said. Diane opened the presentation folder and examined its empty pockets. "You've always loved a count." "I love knowing whether we own the things we're promising to rent." "And I love optimism," she said. "Different management styles." "You don't have a management style here." Evan stepped between us, though only his body faced Diane. His attention stayed on me. "Let's cool this down. The binders are somewhere upstairs. The rest is a staging adjustment. You'll have your count, and then maybe we can all stop acting like someone backed a truck through the wall." Diane's fingers tightened on the folder. It was small, barely a movement. I noticed anyway. At home that evening, I unpacked my office into my dining room and discovered I had taken one of Evan's pens. It was a heavy silver thing he used only in client meetings because he believed cheap pens made people negotiate harder. I placed it by the front door to return Monday. My house was 6 miles from the warehouse, a narrow brick ranch with a sunroom that leaked at one corner and a kitchen exactly big enough for one person to cook without apologizing. I had bought it after the divorce with my share from selling the house Evan and I had lived in. Diane had called the ranch a sensible reset, which was her way of saying she would never choose it. I reheated soup and opened the Halcyon Hotel proposal on my laptop. Evan had revised the opening paragraph. He liked phrases such as immersive luxury and intentional moments. I deleted multi-sensory celebration landscape, then put it back. Fixing his language was not urgent. More importantly, it was not my assignment. At 8:14, he texted, "Inventory will cost us at least 60 labor hours." I replied, probably closer to 72. 3 dots appeared. This feels punitive. I typed, "Accurate things often do," then erased it. "Please make sure tomorrow's tour doesn't interfere with contracted pickups," I wrote. He called instead. I let it ring twice before answering. "What?" I said. "We should talk like normal people." Normal people document inventory transfers. The cabinet closed on his end. He was at the warehouse. I could hear the hollow echo. "I told you, nothing has left the company." That's a very specific sentence, because you're making a specific accusation. I haven't accused you of anything. You copied Naomi. She reconciles our books. You made it look like I'm hiding something. I looked at the blue paperweight beside my laptop. Under the dining room light, the pale spiral inside it looked almost white. "Where are you right now?" Silence then. Finishing the office. "With Diane?" She has a better eye for presentation. I laughed once. It came out sharp. "What?" "Nothing." "No, say it." For years, Evan had resented his mother's criticism while delivering it to me in more acceptable packaging. Diane said I was territorial. Evan said I had trouble delegating. Diane said the business looked feminine. Evan said our branding needed broader appeal. Diane said he deserved to be the public face because the company carried his last name. Evan called that an interesting point. The company carried my last name too. I had kept Bennett after the divorce because changing 12 years of licenses, contracts, credit lines, insurance records, and vendor relationships would have been expensive. Diane regarded this as a personal haunting. "Did you give her keys before or after we signed the agreement?" I asked. "Jesus, Claire, that's not an answer." She needed access today. So today, she may have had an old set. From when? This is exactly why I didn't want to get into it. I leaned back in my chair. "You knew." "Knew what?" "That she had keys. Obviously, I knew she had keys. But you didn't know where the things you moved were." "I know where everything is." The sentence landed between us. Upstairs at the warehouse, something metal scraped across the floor. "Good," I said. "Then Friday should be easy." I ended the call before he could turn my tone into the problem. At 8:50 the next morning, I entered Bennett House through the loading bay. Louise stood beside the receiving table with a clipboard in one hand and my mug in the other. "Table tried to drink your coffee," he said. "I warned it." He nodded toward the stairs. "It looks different up there." "How different?" "Like a dental office got married." Before I could answer, the front door opened and Diane's voice floated across the warehouse. "Evan, the eucalyptus is listing." Louise gave me a long look. "Fresh or fake?" I asked. "Fake." "Then it's made a choice." His mouth twitched, but he glanced toward the office before the smile settled. "About Friday." "Full building?" "Full building." Evan said we might postpone. "We're not postponing." He said the Halcyon contract takes priority. "It does. Friday's outgoing orders are already staged. We start at 7 and work by zone." Luis tapped his clipboard against his leg. "All right." He did not meet my eyes. Luis was bad at lying, but he was excellent at deciding which truth belonged to him. I had always considered that professionalism. That morning, it felt like a locked door. The Halcyon group arrived at 9. Marisol Vega, the hotel's events director, a facilities manager named Ben, and a consultant in a sand-colored coat who introduced herself as Tessa and immediately asked where she could charge her phone. Evan greeted them in the front showroom. Diane stood half a step behind him in a cream jacket, wearing a Bennett House name badge she must have found in an old box. My old office had been transformed. The shelves held white ceramics, 3 art books no one in our company owned, and a row of fabric swatches arranged from oatmeal to slightly darker oatmeal. My desk faced the window now. A bowl of green apples sat where my invoices had been. Diane was sitting in my chair, not using it for a moment, sitting in it as though she had spent years arriving there. Her purse occupied my bottom drawer. I knew because the drawer would not close around its leather handles. Evan saw me notice. "Claire's overseeing operations downstairs today," he told the group. Marisol turned. "Perfect. I was hoping you'd be here." Diane rose slowly. Marisol walked past her and handed me a marked copy of our proposal. "Your candlelight package, the one from the Vinton opening. Can we scale that to 400 guests without losing the low table effect?" Evan opened his mouth. I looked at the page. The photograph showed hundreds of brass candlesticks scattered at varying heights between small bowls of white flowers. My design, my packing ratios, my damage allowances. "Yes," I said, "if we use the full collection." From behind Marisol, Evan gave me the smallest possible shake of his head. I kept my eyes on him. "And do we have the full collection available?" Marisol asked. Upstairs, surrounded by empty shelves and borrowed art books, the room went quiet. Evan smiled. "Absolutely," he said. Marisol looked from Evan to me. The old version of me would have protected the answer. I would have converted his absolutely into a technical distinction, explained that we could supplement the collection, and offered a revised count by the end of the day. Instead, I closed the proposal. "I'll confirm after Friday's inventory." Evan's smile remained in place, but something behind it hardened. Marisol nodded. "That works. We're not signing until next week anyway." "Of course," he said. "Claire's very precise." "I pay her for precise," Marisol said. Diane touched one of the white ceramics on the shelf. "The visual concept is more important than the exact pieces. We have tremendous flexibility." Marisol gave her a courteous smile. "For another event, maybe. The brass is what got our owner interested." "Then brass it is," Evan said. He guided them toward the conference table before anyone could ask whether we possessed the brass he had just promised. Tessa remained beside me, holding her dead phone. "Outlet?" she whispered. I pointed under my former desk. "Left side. You may have to move the Apple bowl cord." "The what?" Diane had run an extension cord up the back of the desk and taped it beneath the bowl, apparently to power a tiny light aimed at the apples. Tessa crouched, stared at it, then looked up at me. "Do the apples perform?" "2 shows daily." She covered a laugh with a cough. I went downstairs. By 10:30, a driver needed a replacement route sheet, a caterer was arguing about chipped coupe glasses, and Evan had sent me 3 messages from 30 feet away. "Need updated insurance language for Halcyon. Can you pull the Vinton packing ratios? Where do we keep the flame certification for the velvet drape?" All 3 tasks lived in folders he had access to. For years, I had treated his inability to find things as proof of my value. It had taken the divorce to show me the other side of that bargain. If being necessary was the only way I knew how to feel secure, then Evan benefited every time he remained helpless. I replied to each message with a file path. He came downstairs after the 3rd. "Could you just send me the certificate? It's in compliance, fabrics, velvet, current. I'm with a client. So am I." He looked around the receiving area. "Luis is a client now?" Luis, 20 feet away, kept wrapping cocktail tables. "I'm dealing with a glassware claim," I said. "That can wait." "It's from Thursday." Then it's already waited. The caterer was still on speaker beside my laptop. "I can hear both of you," she said. Evan closed his eyes. "Morning, Celeste," he called. "Your ex-wife is right about the coupes," Celeste said. They were chipped inside the crates. "Thank you," I said. "I still don't like your breakage fee." "I know." Evan pointed upstairs. 2 minutes. I held up one finger, finished arranging a credit with Celeste, and followed him into the narrow corridor beside the laundry room. He shut the door. "You embarrassed me." "I said I'd confirm inventory. You contradicted me in front of Halcyon. You promised them something you wouldn't let me verify. I know what we have." "Where is it?" "We relocated part of the collection." "To where?" "It's being used for a marketing setup." "Where?" "Why does every conversation with you feel like a deposition?" "Because every answer from you arrives wearing a fake mustache." He made a sound that was almost a laugh, then remembered he was angry. "This is why we couldn't stay married." The sentence was quiet, careless, effective. There had been more dramatic failures in our marriage, but none more common than Evan reaching for the fact of our divorce whenever he needed to win a smaller argument. It turned every disagreement into evidence that loving me had been impossible. I looked at the chipped paint on the laundry room door. "No," I said. "We couldn't stay married because you needed me to be unreasonable before you could disappoint me." His face changed. For 1 second, I saw the man who used to bring me aspirin and stupid gifts from hotel shops. Then the corridor door opened and Diane leaned in. "Marisol wants to know whether the eucalyptus is included." Evan stepped past me. "I'll handle it." Diane lingered. "I hope you're not planning to create a scene on Friday," she said. "I'm planning to count." "You know exactly how that will look." "To whom?" "To your staff, to your clients. A business requires confidence. A business also requires its property." Her expression softened into something almost maternal, which was always when I had to be most careful. "Evan is trying to build something beyond folding chairs and damage claims," she said. "He needs room to lead. He has half a company. He has half a company with someone who corrects him in public. He lied in public. He answered confidently there's a difference." I opened the door wider. "Not on a delivery truck." By noon, the Halcyon group had left with our proposal, 2 fabric swatches, and a promise from Diane that Bennett House could host a private preview dinner in our showroom. I heard about the dinner when Marisol thanked me for it in the parking lot. "What dinner?" "The candlelight test. Wednesday evening. We don't host meals here. She said you'd make an exception." Marisol glanced through the glass doors where Diane was rearranging a pair of chairs. "I assumed she worked with you. She's Evan's mother." "Oh." It was a small word, but it contained a complete reclassification. "I'll call you tomorrow," I said. "Let me see what's practical. Don't turn the building upside down for us. We can review samples during business hours." "I appreciate that." Marisol lowered her voice. "For what it's worth, the apples are hostile." This time I laughed. Inside, Diane was removing her name badge. "You offered them dinner service?" I asked. "A preview experience. We don't have a food service permit. They would bring their own caterer. Our insurance doesn't cover client events on site. Then expand your thinking. I'd rather expand our coverage first." Evan joined us, loosening his tie. "It was just an idea. It was offered as a plan. And Marisol liked it. Marisol just told me not to do it." Diane's face tightened. "You talked her out of it?" "No, she recognized we're a rental warehouse. A warehouse can become more, after permits, insurance, cleaning, staffing, and pricing. Those dull things that keep optimism from setting the building on fire." Evan tossed his folder onto the reception counter. "Enough." Diane turned to him. "I was trying to help." "I know, Mom." The words came immediately. No hesitation, no correction, only comfort. When I had said he lied, he had told me our marriage failed because I corrected him. Diane committed the company to an uninsured event, and he soothed her. That was the shape of it. Not a mother pushing her way into our business. A man holding the door and resenting me for noticing. I went back to the receiving table and moved my coffee out of the dent. Tuesday began with a missing linen delivery. The ivory runners for a vineyard dinner had been scheduled to arrive from our laundry contractor at 8. At 8:15, Luis called them, and learned Evan had changed the delivery to Wednesday so the trucks would not interfere with Halcyon's tour. "The tour was yesterday," I said. "I mentioned that," Luis replied. The runners needed inspection, pressing, and packing before a Thursday morning departure. A Wednesday delivery left us 6 working hours if nothing went wrong, which meant something would. Evan was on his way to a breakfast meeting. I called him. "Can you have them bring half today?" he asked. "They already reassigned the truck." "What if we pick them up?" "Luis needs all 3 drivers." "Then move somebody." "Who?" A pause. "You know the schedule better than I do. I emailed it Friday. So tell me what works. I'm looking at the same schedule you can open." He exhaled into the phone. "Fine. I'll deal with it." At 11, the laundry contractor called to ask what time I was collecting the runners. Evan had dealt with it by telling them I would come. Their plant was 40 minutes away. In the past, I would have gone, answered emails from the parking lot, and called it teamwork. Instead, I asked them to hold the order until Wednesday and documented the delay in the project file. At 2, Evan came into the receiving area. "Did you get the runners?" "No. They said you were coming. You said I was coming. Was there a reason you couldn't?" "Yes." "What reason?" "I was working." "So was I." Then neither of us picked up the runners. His mouth opened, then closed. Behind him, one of the warehouse staff wheeled past a rack of black tablecloths. Evan lowered his voice. "You're letting things fail to make a point." "No, I'm letting your decisions remain attached to your name." "What is that supposed to mean?" "It means if you reschedule a delivery, you solve the rescheduled delivery." "I thought we were partners." "So did I." He went upstairs without answering. The runners arrived Wednesday at noon. 11 had rust-colored watermarks along the folds. Normally, I kept our laundry contractor on the phone until they found a same-day solution. This time, I logged the damage, rejected the 11, and sent Evan the shortage notice because he had taken over the vineyard account during the divorce. At 1:15, he appeared with his laptop under his arm. "We're short 9. 11. We can pull 2 from overstock. Overstock is a color mismatch." He sat on the edge of the receiving table and nearly slid into the dent. "Why didn't they tell us before delivery?" "They say the stains happened in transit." "That's nonsense." "Probably." "Did you push them?" "I followed our claim procedure. You wrote the claim procedure." "I know." He studied me. "You're enjoying this." "I'm eating almonds over a laundry dispute. You know what I mean?" Again, I did. He wanted me to be secretly thrilled because the alternative was worse. I might simply be finished rescuing him. His phone rang. He looked at the screen and walked away without answering. The caller's name flashed before he turned it over. Mom. At 3, Luis asked me to sign a transfer sheet for 6 velvet chairs going to a photographer's studio. "I don't know this job," I said. "Diane arranged it." "Diane can't arrange jobs." She said Evan approved. "Where's the contract?" He rubbed the back of his neck. "She called it a favor." "To whom?" "Somebody opening a social space. Glass something." I looked at the 6 chairs. Each had a strip of orange tape on the rear leg, our internal mark for pieces awaiting repair. "They can't leave in that condition." She said photographs only. Then they still need a $0 contract, a condition report, and approval from an owner who is not her son. Luis looked toward the office. "You want me to put them back?" "Yes." He started to wheel them away, then stopped. "She's going to call him. I imagine she has his number." 20 minutes later, Diane arrived in person. She did not come through the showroom. She entered through the side warehouse door using her key. The 6 chairs were already back in Zone C. "You humiliated Luis," she said. Luis seemed okay. "You countermanded instructions he received from an owner." I asked for documentation. It's 6 chairs for 2 hours. Then documenting them should be easy. The photographer is doing me a courtesy. With our chairs, the photographs will benefit everyone. How? She hesitated just long enough. They'll show what Bennett House can create. Where? In a new space. What space? Her gaze shifted to the receiving table, to my notebooks and the blue paperweight I had brought from home that morning. She reached toward it, then changed her mind. You have never understood how relationships create opportunity, she said. I was married to Evan for 12 years. I understand the cost of relationships. Her face lost its practiced softness. You kept his name. I kept mine. He built this company. We built it together. He sold the vision. I priced the vision, packed it, insured it, repaired it, and collected payment when the vision forgot to send an invoice. She stepped closer. And there it is. You always need him to owe you. No, Diane, you do. The side door opened behind her. Evan stood there, his phone still in his hand. For once, he had heard enough of the conversation to know exactly what was happening. He looked at his mother, then at me, then toward the chairs in Zone C. Let them go, he said. Diane's shoulders eased. Without paperwork? I asked. I'll sign it. You can't approve a transfer to an undisclosed business alone. It's not a transfer, it's a 2-hour loan. Then put the borrower's name on the form. His eyes moved to Diane. She said, Glass House Social. Something passed between them, recognition, warning, agreement. It was gone too quickly for me to name. What is Glass House Social? I asked. A concept, Diane said. Evan rubbed his thumb along the edge of his phone. Mom's exploring a small showroom. With company property. With 6 damaged chairs. And the candlesticks? His expression answered before he did. We'll discuss it after Friday, he said. No, we'll discuss it now. Claire, I have spent the last 3 days watching you turn routine issues into a referendum on our entire partnership. You ordered me out of our office and stalked your mother's showroom. No one stalked anything. Diane looked away. Evan noticed. The alliance between them did not break, but I saw the first hairline crack. He took Diane by the elbow and led her toward the front. The chairs stay here. She pulled free. The photographer is waiting. Then cancel. You promised. I said cancel. She stared at him with naked disbelief. For a second, I thought he had chosen the company. Then he turned back to me. Come upstairs, he said. We need to talk about buying you out. The office still smelled faintly of eucalyptus. Diane's apples were gone, but her purse remained in my bottom drawer. Evan picked it up by one handle, set it on the floor, and motioned toward my chair. You can sit. How generous. Can we avoid doing that? Doing what? Making every sentence bleed. I stayed standing. He walked around the desk and moved the ceramic bowl 2 inches, then moved it back. I spoke to Mark Ellison. Mark was the business appraiser who had valued Bennett House during the divorce. He wore suspenders without irony and described depreciation as if it were weather. When? I asked. A few weeks ago. Before the keys then. Before Sunday. Evan opened his laptop. I asked him for a preliminary number based on last quarter. And you forgot to mention it? I wanted to see whether it was viable before upsetting you. That's thoughtful. I'm much less upset finding out during your mother's furniture pickup. He rotated the laptop toward me. The offer on the screen was $184,000 for my half of Bennett House, payable over 18 months. It included a release from the remaining warehouse lease obligation and a clause allowing Evan to retain the company name. I read it twice. The number was low, not absurdly low, which made it more dangerous. It would pay off my mortgage and leave enough to start something smaller without forklifts, warehouse leaks, or a former mother-in-law issuing design opinions beside the copier. You don't have the cash, I said. I have financing. From whom? That's covered in the addendum. It wasn't. The addendum referred to an unnamed private note holder, Diane. He sat back. She's willing to invest. In Bennett House or Glass House Social. They could complement each other. There it was, not 6 damaged chairs, not a concept, a plan. How much company inventory have you moved? None permanently. That word is doing a lot of lifting. You would be paid for your interest. After that, I'd control the assets. After that, yes. But you started before. He rubbed his forehead. We needed to photograph the space before the financing meeting. So you took our property to make her business look operational. My future business. I stared at him. He looked almost embarrassed, not by what he had done, by having said it clearly. Mom has relationships with planners we've never reached, he said. Glass House would be client-facing. Bennett House would fulfill the rentals. Without paying Bennett House, there would be an internal agreement. Between the company you own and the company your mother owns, I'd have equity. How much? We're finalizing that. Of course you are. He stood. You've wanted out for months. I wanted boundaries. You wanted me to tell my mother she couldn't walk into a warehouse with a plant. She walked in with keys and walked out with inventory. You see invasion everywhere, and you see free labor. His expression sharpened. This offer is fair. Then Mark can present it to Naomi with the assumptions and financing disclosed. I'm presenting it to you. You're the buyer. And your former husband. I know what this place costs you. That was the first honest thing he had said. He knew about the nights I sat alone in the warehouse waiting for delayed returns. He knew I still checked the weather in every county where we had outdoor events. He knew which loading bay rattle woke me from sleep even at home. He knew that when I looked at Bennett House, I saw both the strongest thing I had built and the longest excuse I had accepted. He softened his voice. You could be done, Claire. For one reckless second, I wanted him to be right. I imagined handing over my keys. I imagined a Friday morning with nowhere I had to be at 7. I imagined letting Diane paint every wall beige and call it innovation. If Evan wanted to build his next life from the things I had labeled, repaired, and paid for, maybe freedom was worth the insult. Then I saw the deadline beneath the signature line. This expires tomorrow at 6. The financing rate is locked. Convenient. It's real. So is Friday's inventory. He closed the laptop halfway. The inventory will disrupt operations and reduce the value of what I'm offering. Counting chairs reduces value. Conflict reduces value. Only when the conflict finds something. His voice flattened. If you don't accept, I'll petition under the operating agreement for a forced sale process. You can. That could take months. I know. It could cost both of us $30,000. I know. And you might end up with less. I know, Evan. He looked toward the wired glass wall. Downstairs, Diane stood beside the reception counter with her cream jacket folded over one arm. She was watching us. He lowered his voice again. I am trying to give both of us a clean ending. You moved my desk on Sunday. You're still on the desk? No, I'm finally looking at the room. I took the printed offer from beside his laptop. I'll review it. Relief crossed his face before he hit it. Diane smiled when I came downstairs. That nearly made me tear the offer in half. Instead, I slid it into my laptop bag and returned to the Vineyard order. By 4, we had located 9 replacement runners from a rental company in Charlottesville. The owner, Cheryl, agreed to meet our driver halfway Thursday morning because I had once found 60 white napkins for her during a hurricane evacuation weekend. She charged us rush pricing but waived the transfer fee. Evan approved it without comment. At 5:10, he left with Diane. Through the front windows, I watched her talk with both hands while he leaned against his car. Once, he interrupted. She touched his cheek. He stopped. Luis approached the receiving table carrying a box of barcode scanner batteries. We still doing Friday? He asked. Yes. He set the box down. Evan wants dispatch loaded early so we can close Zone A by 10. That works. He also said we're not opening sealed event crates. We open everything. Luis's gaze went to the warehouse door. Is there something you need to tell me? He shook his head. Did you move the brass collection? His face tightened. I move what the ticket says. What ticket? If there's a ticket, I move it. That wasn't my question. I know. He picked up the batteries again. Luis, he stopped. I'm not asking you to choose between us. That's what everybody says right before they give you 2 doors. I'm asking whether Friday's count will match the system. He looked tired in a way I had not noticed before. It never matches exactly. This isn't about broken votives. No, he said, it isn't. Then he walked away. Naomi met me at my house that evening with takeout noodles and 3 highlighters. She was 60, compact, and permanently unimpressed by typography. She read Evan's offer at my dining table while I separated noodles that had fused into one ambitious mass. He wants your answer in 22 hours, she said. Interest rate lock. Sure. Banks are famous for financing vague arrangements with mothers. It may be private financing. Then the rate can do yoga. She marked 2 clauses in yellow. The valuation excludes pending receivables but includes all current liabilities. That's backward for you. It also assumes every listed asset remains with Bennett House, which is why he doesn't want the inventory. Maybe, or he wants you to think that. I handed her a fork. You're comforting. I bill extra for comfort. She read the agreement again. Would you take it if the number were right? I looked toward the paperweight on the sideboard. Under the lamp, the chip along its edge cast a small, crooked shadow. I don't know. That means yes. It means I'm tired. Tired people sell businesses every day. Is that advice? No, advice is expensive. I smiled despite myself. Naomi put the pages down. If you stay, you may be tied to him through a formal dispute. If you leave, you may spend years wondering what Friday would have shown. Either choice can hurt and still be reasonable. He's using the business to build something with her. He has always built something with her. The sentence stung because Naomi had known us before the divorce. She had watched Diane arrive during tax meetings with sandwiches no one requested and opinions on distributions she did not understand. I thought the divorce fixed that, I said. The divorce removed him from your kitchen. I stared at the noodles. Naomi touched the edge of the offer. I can counter tomorrow, full payment at closing, independent valuation, verified assets. He'll reject it. Then why counter? To learn which part frightens him. Thursday morning, Evan rejected the counter in 9 minutes. He came downstairs holding the pages Naomi had emailed. This isn't serious. Full payment is serious. No lender will fund it on 24 hours' notice, then extend the deadline. I can't, won't. The offer is structured around what I can obtain. From Diane. Stop making her name an accusation. She's the private note holder, isn't she? He folded the pages once. Yes. What does she get? That's between us. It's funding the purchase of my property. It's between more than you. He glanced across the loading bay. 2 staff members were scanning packed orders within earshot. Not here. That didn't bother you Sunday. He stepped closer. You think Friday gives you leverage. What if it doesn't? What if the count shows ordinary variance and you've spent the week damaging the company because you wanted a villain? The possibility had been sitting beside me since Sunday. Naomi had given it a voice the night before. Incomplete records, old losses, repairs that had never been removed from the system. Even a significant shortage could dissolve into bookkeeping failure if we could not prove when the pieces disappeared. Evan saw the hesitation. Take the offer, he said quietly. Let this be over before we hate each other. I almost laughed at the tense he had chosen. At noon, Diane called 3 times. I ignored her. On the 4th, she left a message. Claire, I know we have our differences, but please consider what refusing this will do to Evan. He cannot spend another year defending every decision. You have a chance to leave with dignity. I hope you care enough about what you built together not to ruin it on the way out. I listened twice, then deleted it. At 4:30, the warehouse emptied except for Luis, who was finishing the dispatch line, and me. Rain clicked against the loading bay door. The offer lay beside my laptop. I had signed my name on a blank pad twice, testing the pen without admitting that was what I was doing. Luis rolled the final packed cart toward the dock. You should go home, he said. So should you. 5 minutes. I began clearing the receiving table for the scanners. I moved my mug, stacked my notebooks, and opened the shallow drawer beneath the dent to put away the blue paperweight. The drawer jammed halfway. I pulled harder. Something scraped behind it. "Luis, do you have a flashlight?" He set one on the table without asking. I removed the drawer and shone the light into the metal cavity. A folded yellow paper was wedged against the rear bracket, crushed as though the drawer had been closing on it for days. I reached in and worked it loose. It was a delivery copy from our dispatch pad, dated 3 weeks earlier. The destination line read Glasshouse Social. The load listed brass collection, 2 label printers, sample library, votive cases, shelving units, and 4 blue archive binders. At the bottom were 2 more load numbers in Evan's handwriting. I looked up. Luis stood very still on the other side of the table. "3 loads?" I asked. He swallowed. "After hours," he said. The offer sat between us, one signature away from turning everything on that paper into Evan's property. I placed the blue glass weight over the deadline and called Naomi. Naomi answered on the second ring. "Tell me you haven't signed." I found a dispatch copy. Her voice changed. "Photograph it where you found it." I set the yellow paper back against the metal cavity, took pictures from 3 angles, then photographed it beside the drawer and again on the table. "Now email them to me and yourself," she said. "Not through the company account." Luis shifted his weight. "Luis is here. Then don't ask him to explain anything he doesn't want to explain. Inventory first." I looked at him. "Did you put this in the drawer?" "No." "Did you know it was there?" "No." He rubbed his palms against his work pants. "I was looking for that copy." "Why?" Evan took the top sheets, told me the loads were for an off-site Bennett house display. I kept the delivery copy because we always keep one. "Why wasn't it filed?" He said he'd handle the paperwork. "And you believed him?" "At first." The rain pressed harder against the loading door. "What happened after that?" Luis glanced toward the office windows, dark above us. "He told me to peel our barcodes off anything that already had Glasshouse labels." I said nothing. "I didn't do it," he added quickly. "I told him scanners wouldn't read the pieces Friday if the labels were gone. He said Friday wasn't happening." Naomi's voice came from the phone. "Claire, do not debate the offer tonight. Send written notice that you are declining it." I lifted the weight from the deadline. My 2 practice signatures showed faintly on the pad beneath. "I'm declining," I said. "Good. Send the email, then go home." "Naomi, inventory first." I ended the call and attached the photographs to a new message. My fingers shook only once when I typed Evan's name. "The offer does not reflect verified company assets and is declined. Friday's inventory will proceed as scheduled." I copied Naomi and Luis. Evan called before the message had finished leaving my outbox. I muted the phone. At 7 the next morning, he was waiting in the parking lot. Diane sat in his passenger seat. Neither of them got out until Naomi pulled in beside me. "You invited your accountant?" Diane asked as she stepped onto the wet pavement. "Our accountant," Naomi said. Diane looked at her. "You know what I meant." "I usually do." Inside, 6 staff members collected scanners at the receiving table. Luis had printed the master list by zone and taped enlarged maps to the wall. I placed the yellow delivery copy beneath the blue paperweight beside my laptop. Evan saw it. His face emptied. "Everyone upstairs," he said. "Now." "No," I said. "We start with Zone A. This is an ownership issue. It's an inventory issue." He reached for the delivery sheet. I put my hand over it. Naomi slid a photocopy toward him. "You can touch that one." Diane remained by the door. Her jacket was buttoned wrong, one side hanging lower than the other. It was the first careless thing I had ever seen her wear. Evan scanned the page. "This doesn't prove anything." "It lists 3 load numbers," I said. "It's a transfer record." "Then where are the receiving records?" "At Glasshouse." Diane spoke too fast. "I have them." Evan turned. "You said you were creating them." "I did." "You said everything was documented." It is documented. I have a list. Naomi took out a pen. Wonderful. Email it. Diane's hand moved toward her purse but stopped. Evan folded the copy. We should pause until the records are reconciled. Louise stood beside the scanner cart. Every person in the receiving area was pretending not to listen. No pause, I said. Claire, if you continue this way, you'll compromise staff confidence. Zone A, I said. Louise handed me a scanner. We began with the brass collection. The system listed 812 candlesticks in 6 sizes. Zone A held 194. We opened every crate. We counted loose pieces on repair shelves, photographed bent stems, and checked tomorrow's staged orders. 237 were legitimately out on contracted events. 381 were missing. The number appeared on the laptop in a red cell Naomi had formatted without ceremony. Evan stood with his arms crossed. They're at Glass House. You told me the full collection was available, I said. It is available. We can move it back. Before the Halcyon event? Obviously. When does Glass House need it? Diane's mouth tightened. I looked at her. You promised it to someone. A launch dinner, she said. Tomorrow evening. With whose contract? The host is paying Glass House. Evan turned on her again. You said it was a preview. It is a preview, a paid preview. You rented our candlesticks? I had expenses. His arms dropped. For 3 days, he had spoken to me as though I were inventing danger to punish him. Now he looked at his mother with the same stunned offense I had carried since Sunday. She noticed. Oh, don't you dare, she said. You knew what we were building. I didn't know you were taking payments. I'm expected to launch a business with Air? You said the financing covered setup. The financing is for buying her out. Naomi raised one finger. Thank you. Diane realized what she had said and looked away. We continued. Both label printers were gone. Of the 7 sample books in the system, 5 were at Glass House, including discontinued fabrics that could not be replaced. 460 glass votives were missing, 12 transport cases, 9 sections of portable shelving, 2 rolling ladders, 4 blue binders containing signed condition reports and historic repair logs. The damage deepened when we reached the candlelight dinner collection. Glass House had nearly all of it. Marisol called at 10:15. Evan reached for his phone. I stopped scanning. Put it on speaker. I can handle Marisol. You promised her this inventory. He looked around at the staff, then answered. Marisol, good morning. I just received an availability warning from your booking system. Naomi had flagged the Halcyon proposal as pending physical confirmation. It was the ordinary process Evan had tried to skip. We're conducting a count now, he said, so the full collection isn't confirmed. We're resolving an off-site transfer. When will you know? He looked at the red cells. I held out my hand. After a moment, he gave me the phone. We have a substantial shortage on site, I said. The pieces exist, but they were moved without being assigned to your proposal. I can give you a verified count by 3 and alternatives for anything we can't commit. There was a pause. Was this the marketing setup? Marisol asked. Yes. Does that setup belong to Bennett House? Some of the property does. Another pause. 3 o'clock then. She ended the call. Evan took his phone back. You made us sound incompetent. We are currently unable to locate half a collection you sold with absolute confidence. I know where it is. Then why are we missing 86 pieces from the Glass House list Diane just emailed? Diane looked up sharply. What? Naomi turned the laptop around. Your document lists 295 candlesticks. The dispatch sheet lists 381. I counted what was displayed. Where are the rest? Evan asked. I don't know. Storage? At Glass House? Some may be with the florist. You let a florist take them? She needed to test arrangements. The crack I had seen Wednesday widened. Evan walked away from us and called someone. Diane followed, whispering furiously. He held up a hand without looking at her. At noon, Luis approached Naomi and me beside Zone C. "I have something," he said. He pulled out his phone and opened the loading bay camera app. The system retained footage for 30 days. 3 nights showed Evan's car and a rented box truck backed against the dock after closing. Luis appeared in the footage loading cases with 2 warehouse staff members. "You had this all week?" I asked. "I thought the transfer was legal when we did it." "And after?" He opened his messages. "Evan, inventory needs to be postponed until after acquisition closes. Then, 2 days later, remove BH labels from anything Glass House is photographing. We'll reconcile ownership after Monday." Luis looked sick. "He reminded me yesterday that he signs payroll," he said. "Said there may not be room for 2 warehouse managers after the reorganization. Did he threaten to fire you?" Not in words he'd repeat. I wanted to be furious with Luis. Part of me was. He had moved the cases. He had watched me ask where they were and protected himself with careful answers. But I had spent years making Evan's decisions survivable. I knew what fear looked like when it dressed itself as work. "Email the footage and messages to Naomi," I said. Evan returned as Luis sent them. "What are you doing?" he asked. Luis put his phone away. "Keeping my door." Evan looked at me. "You said you weren't making staff choose." I didn't ask him. "I'm telling the truth," Luis said. His voice was quiet. "That's the door." Diane laughed bitterly. "Wonderful. Claire gets another loyal soldier." "Stop," Evan said. "No, you stop. You dragged her accountant in. You're interrogating me in front of employees, and now you're acting surprised that she's turning everyone against us." "Us?" he said. The word sounded different in his mouth now. Diane heard it too. She stepped back. "Everything I did was for your future. You rented assets you didn't own. You were about to own them. You told me her signature was a formality. My hurt settled into something cold and exact." "You discussed my signature?" I asked. Neither answered. Evan stared at the concrete floor. "I thought she wanted out." "So you moved the property before asking." "I was going to put it back if you said no." "Before or after Diane collected the money?" He turned on her. "How much have you taken?" "Don't speak to me like I stole from you." "You did." The irony was so complete it almost had weight. I lifted the blue paperweight and slid the original dispatch copy into a folder. "Here is what happens next," I said. "All unapproved transfers stop today under the dual approval rule we both signed. Nothing leaves Glass House except to return here. We contact every Bennett House client affected by the shortage, including Halcyon, before 3. Evan looked at me. "And then?" "An independent count at Glass House. Anything intact comes back. Anything damaged, rented out, or missing is reimbursed. By Mom. By whoever received it and whoever authorized the transfer." Diane picked up her purse. "You'll hear from someone about this." Naomi capped her pen. "Have them email." Diane waited for Evan to follow her. He didn't. She walked out alone. We finished the count at 6:20. Evan sat at the receiving table while the last scanner uploaded. He had removed his jacket and rolled his sleeves, something he usually did only when other people were carrying heavy objects. "What do you want?" he asked. "Your share, independently valued after the missing assets and client losses are accounted for." He gave a tired laugh. "You can't afford it." "Maybe not." "Then what?" "You return everything you can, reimburse the company, and participate in a formal accounting. If you want to remain partners after that, you explain this to me every day we share a building." He looked toward the office. "I can't do that." "I know." The Glass House count took 9 days. The launch dinner was canceled. Most of the inventory came back. Though 43 candlesticks were damaged, 76 votives were gone, 2 sample books had been cut apart for mood boards, and 1 label printer had been sold to cover a deposit. Diane called those losses startup friction. Evan called them unauthorized after his name appeared beside every transfer. 3 months of negotiation followed. Mark Ellison performed a new valuation using the verified assets and the revenue at risk from the canceled glasshouse commitments. Evan's share was worth less than he expected, but more than I could pay in cash. Cheryl and 2 longtime vendors extended credit against future orders. Naomi restructured our equipment note. I used my savings for the rest. Evan signed on a rainy Tuesday at the conference table. Diane did not attend. Afterward, he stood in the doorway of the office while I packed the white ceramics into a box. "I really did think you wanted out," he said. "I wanted you to stop letting her into everything. She's my mother. You were my husband." He looked away. That was all. No explanation could make those 2 facts equal. By fall, the sign outside read Blue Glass Event House. Luis had chosen the color, Naomi had rejected 3 terrible fonts, and Marisol signed the Halcyon contract after we rebuilt the candlelight collection with pieces we could actually promise. The office shelves held sample books, binders, repair records, and enough mess to prove work happened there. My invoices spread across the estate sale desk in uneven stacks. The blue glass paperweight rested on Friday's final inventory, its chipped edge turned toward the window. In the afternoon sun, the pale spiral inside it cast a thin line across the page, holding everything exactly where I had put it.